I always know that it's up to me to change the belief. It's always up to me to change the things that I believe to fit the goal that I have and to fit the behavior that actually needs to happen, the actions that I actually need to take.
Welcome to Did I Stutter with Jill Perrick. And yeah, I probably did because I have a stuttering disability. But I'm also a multiple six-figure business and mindset coach who's here to help you shut down the mindfuckery of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and playing the nice girl in your content so you and your brand can blow the fuck up and so you can stack the motherfucking cash. I'm holding absolutely nothing back. We're talking marketing, messaging, mindset, subconscious healing, nervous system regulation, and how to do it all even with raging anxiety, ADHD, and just being a fucking human. If fuck is one of your favorite words and nothing can get in between you, your iced coffee, or the work that you're here to do, I'm your girl. Let's dive in.
So I was at the dentist today and I had to sit in the chair for a bit while I was waiting for the actual dentist to come and check, make sure everything was good. And I was thinking about the fact that I would have had to ask for time off for this appointment and like just how many like appointments and things that I do every single week that I was not able to do when I didn't have a business. And I kind of always think about this because I always come back to how grateful I am that I was so risky and I took the risk and I did that shit, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people sit in the indecision and they sit there and they teeter back and forth between like, do I really want this? Don't I? Blah, blah, blah. And people will spend years there. Anyways, that's not the reason for this audio. So I was in the dentistry. I was thinking about that, being like, oh yeah, like, this would have been just something else that I would need to ask for time off on or use overtime hours for, whatever it is. And I was thinking about the fact that if I didn't become a coach, if I didn't immerse myself in this world, my relationship to money would have looked so different. Because the thing is, before I entered the coaching space, I actually had no idea how in scarcity I was naturally and how I thought about money and how I thought about rich people. Like it's the kind of thing that like you just don't realize you do until you become aware of it and until you look back and you're like, holy shit, I really had like a very negative, limited mindset when it comes to money. And the only reason why I'm so self-aware now, why I have a completely different set of beliefs about myself, about money, about business, about success is because of this business, is because of the things that I've invested in and everything I've done because of the business. And I was thinking about how big this is, that like the reason why I started the business wasn't so I could change my mindset or my beliefs, but evidently that's exactly what happened. And that is worth so much more than you even realize. Like I would just be living a completely different life than the life I am currently living. So I had that realization. I was like, yeah, like I probably would continue to think the same shit about money, that there was never enough, that I can't have it, that I can't have a lot of it, that rich people are scammy, and that I'm always going to be in debt, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And there was like this subconscious pattern that I would constantly run when I started making a lot of money. And it was this subconscious pattern of, okay, I can relax now. I'm safe. I'm okay. Because I had lived so long in scarcity that whenever I would get like a big cash injection or I would have a high cash month, I would be like, okay, I can slow down. I can take my foot off the gas. And this had to happen to me a couple of times for me to realize that's exactly what was happening. And then I had to like clean it up. But it's so much easier said than done. And sometimes we need to screw up multiple times for us to finally stop the self-sabotage as it's happening. And the reason why I'm saying all of this is because the reason why you're probably still in a loop with something, or you're so aware of something that you're doing or something that keeps happening in your business, like you sign a client who like isn't a great fit, and even though you tell yourself at the time like, oh, like she's fine, there aren't any red flags, blah, 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 it always ends up exactly how you think it's going to. Or you tell yourself, okay, as soon as I get this client payment or this, I'm going to do this with it or that with it, and then you end up self-sabotaging it, whatever pattern you are currently running. Or if you're like, I'm going to do the YAP challenge, I'm going to do a reel challenge, I'm going to do a content challenge, and then you do it for like a week or 2 weeks and then you fucking fall off. Okay. This is why. This is your fucking problem. And not enough people are talking about it. And this is literally the problem. And we're going to bring it all the way back to my neuro-linguistic programming training back in 2020. Because what I'm talking about is what's it called? The triangle of change, the pyramid of change. It's something to that effect. And it's basically telling us that identity is the foundation of all change. Identity is the foundation of every change that you make. But what you're doing is you're trying to change the behavior and not the belief. What you're trying to do is change the thing that you do without changing the identity behind it or changing the belief behind it. Let me give you an example. I have a client that she came to me and she kept having these roller coaster income months. She would have like a 10K month, and then she would have like a 9K month, an 8K month, and then it would start to dip. It would go up and down, up and down, up and down. And she kept falling into this pattern. And she wasn't super aware of like what the pattern was. So when we started working together, we dug into it. And I realized that every time she would get like an influx of clients and she started signing for clients, her income would start to decline. And it didn't happen right away. It would happen over time. So I was like, what's going on here? And at first we thought it was her capacity. She would be like, I'm really stretched, blah, 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 blah. But she's also like a psycho. She's a badass. She can take on tons of clients. She was also working part-time at the time, and she was on TikTok. She was on Instagram. She was on all the things. So we were like, what's going on here? And we realized that her capacity wasn't stretched because of people. It was stretched because of her over responsibility for her client results. And anytime she would sign a bunch of clients, because she would start to like think like, okay, I really need to like get my ass into gear. I need to raise my income again. I need to get out of this income dip. I need to do this, blah, blah, blah. She would go so fucking hard and she would be so excited and she would like drill in her content and do all this stuff. And she would sign multiple clients into intensives, into one-to-one coaching, into her mastermind. And then she would kind of crumble, because she would think about taking on all of these people and taking on all of their emotions and taking on their results. But the thing is, as a coach, there's a period where your clients are not always getting results. And you know that too. You know that when you're in a container, especially a long-term container, you're not going to be constantly on the upward trajectory. There's sometimes quiet weeks. There's sometimes quiet months. There's sometimes times where like you're learning something and you need to learn something instead of like really get the result. And that is what was obviously happening for her. And there was nothing wrong with it. Her clients were coming to her with the problems that they had, and she was in the midst of solving those problems with them. But any upset client, any client who was having a hard time, even though it had nothing to do with my client, she made it mean something about her. She made their problems mean that she was not being a good enough coach. So she took on the responsibility. And then what would happen is she would change her behavior. She wouldn't sell as hard. She wouldn't sell as often. She would pull back subconsciously. She was trying to change the behavior without changing the belief. So instead, we had to change the belief of the subconscious belief of I am responsible for the results that clients get. Because even though logically and consciously, you know it's not true, people, and I'm sure you do too, still operate as if it is. And you will probably find little threads and things that you do that prove that you still subconsciously believe that. Okay? That is an example of changing the behavior without looking at the belief underneath the behavior and being like, but if I changed this, how would that relieve me of the stresses that I'm currently having? How would that relieve me of these capacity edges I keep hitting up against? Because it would actually change everything. I always talk about this example with a client who is a strength coach, right? Is like, she really wanted to change her life. She wanted to change how she looked physically. So something she started doing is she started getting up at fucking 5 a.m. and going out to her cold ass garage and working out, because that was the only time that she could fit in for herself. But she had goals, okay? And she was able to do that and achieve the result of losing 30 pounds and just loving the way she looked. She blew up her business. Like, all of these things were a ripple effect, right? But it changed because she changed on an identity level. She said to herself, like, I am the kind of person who does this now. And this was also a revelation for me, because like, as somebody who grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, like, we have a very toxic diet culture and workout culture. I used to have to like wake up really early in the morning and work out before school, because my dad was like a workout freak. He still is. And there were some really good things and habits that instilled in me. But my dad has this like belief that you can like work off food and just eat whatever you want. So even though it was well-intentioned, I grew up with a lot of like unhealthy beliefs about food and about working out and how it's actually like punishment, blah, 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 blah. But all of that to say, when I actually realized, I was like, oh, like I just keep going on a fucking diet instead of changing my lifestyle, instead of thinking as soon as I lose X amount of weight, I'm good. It was about, no, like, what are your everyday habits that are contributing to you feeling healthier? What's the food you can eat that helps you feel your best and feel like energized and ready to go? You don't have to like restrict yourself, but it had to be a change in your fucking lifestyle. And that sounds obvious to a ton of people, but to me, because I was not passionate about fitness or strength or any of those kind of things, it was like a revelation for me. So changing the behavior instead of the belief will keep you in a loop. You can't just change the action and then expect things to always be like that. If your underlying belief is that you only need enough cash to feel safe, and as soon as you have that, you're now safe and you should slow down. If you have that belief, that is what's going to happen. No matter how hard you try to push or keep going or any of these kinds of things, because you have the belief you don't need anymore. You don't need more. It's selfish to need more than 10K a month. It's selfish to need more than 20K a month. Why would you go for more? You don't need to work harder to get more. It sounds so logical to your brain, but that's because it's been operating that way for your entire life. So this is like a realization that a lot of my clients have when they come in to work with me is like it's not just a change in your action that happens. It is also a change in your like baseline subconscious beliefs, because that is what actually turns you into a person that makes big fucking money. Is the beliefs that you have are the beliefs that you have about yourself, about business, about money. And I know it sounds cliche and it sounds fucking annoying, but you won't have the results you fucking desire until you actually change who you are on a belief level and the beliefs that you have. Here's another example. I had a client who would constantly say things like, people in my audience can't afford me. Okay. And she has like a couple thousand Instagram followers. Like she has an audience. She has a couple thousand on Instagram. She has a couple thousand, I think, on even TikTok. She has a Threads account. She has clients, or she has an audience, right? And she has clients as well. And she would say this. She would say every time we would talk about her raising her rates or doing something along those lines, she would have the objection to it as, well, I just don't think the people in my audience can afford me. First of all, you don't know anything about anyone's financial situation, but you will tell yourself that story. And then what happens? Your behavior mirrors the belief that you have. So you're not going to raise your rates, costing you thousands of dollars a month and a year. You will not sell as hard as you could. You will not sell certain offers. You will not speak to a higher level kind of client that you actually can help, but you're keeping yourself from actually talking to them because you've convinced yourself that your audience can't afford you, and that your audience wouldn't be able to afford you if you raised your rates, and that all the people in your audience can't afford you. That belief informs every action that you take. And it is a choice to keep believing these things. And that is the difference between somebody who is successful in the online space and someone who is not, is they believe that what they think and believe is the truth, and they have to believe that, versus somebody who is successful and who is constantly evolving and making more and signing more clients. They have cracked the code, and the code is, I can believe whatever I fucking want. And if I were to believe this, how would that change how I operate? This is what I've been doing since fucking 2020, and it is why I have made over $875,000 in lifetime revenue, and why I know that I'm going to reach $1 million in lifetime revenue this year. Like, I just know it's going to happen. Because I always know that it's up to me to change the belief. It's always up to me to change the things that I believe to fit the goal that I have, and to fit the behavior that actually needs to happen, the actions that I actually need to take. I have a goal of doing like a public speaking event. I'm already like so stressed about it, but I have a goal of that, to do a speaking event. Okay. And for years I was like, I don't need to do speaking events. I don't even really need to go to events because it's really hard, because I have a stutter, and like that, it takes a lot out of me energetically, it takes a lot out of me emotionally to go to these things and to think about actually speaking at them. I want to shit my pants, okay? But that version of me who hits $1 million in lifetime revenue, she does the speaking event even though she's shitting her pants. And if I am going to become somebody who is a speaker, or who has done or is doing a speaking event, I have to have beliefs around that. I have to believe I am the kind of person that people ask to speak. And if that's conflicting against what I used to believe, I have to change that, because I could go and do a speaking event, sure. But if I'm insecure, if I'm like, oh, who would want me to come speak at their event anyways, like if I was constantly telling myself that, I probably wouldn't make any of the moves for it to happen. Your beliefs inform everything that you're fucking doing. And what you need to do right now to get yourself out of a loop, out of whatever fucking pattern you find yourself in, that you keep ending up in the same place, or at the end of the month with the same amount of money, or the same amount of clients, or in the same situation even a fucking year later, you have to ask yourself, where am I trying to change the behavior when I actually need to change the belief? And this is the kind of work that we do in the Real Deal Mastermind. It's not just the strategizing and the launching and the content and all of those juicy fucking things about being in a business mastermind. We also do the clocking of the patterns. We do the call outs. We do the shit that you know you have to come into the room and put your ego aside, and you love being called out. I love being called out, and I attract people that love being called out. Because if you really think that you can see all of your blind spots and all the reasons why you don't have the results that you currently desire, if you think that you can see all of that on your own, I already know you're not making a lot of money. And if you are capped, because you cannot clock all of your own patterns. You cannot see what somebody could see for you. So the summer sale is happening. It ends on Friday. And you can get over 10K in savings and extra bonuses if you join the Real Deal Mastermind by Friday, July 24th at midnight. So you can click the link for the application, or you can send me a DM with Mastermind to inquire.